In a massive shock. Okay, you know what? Hold on a second. Before we talk about it, I am going to go to onlyfans.com.
Oh
Okay?
boy.
I'm going to onlyfans.com. I'm not going to share my screen because I don't want to end up, getting my
And on Twitch.
So, oh, right. So OnlyFans' theory, I guess, is that they are not strictly a pornographic website, right? Because
Yes,
when
their
OnlyFans
theory. Yep.
when OnlyFans was founded by, if I recall correctly, an adult content mogul. When OnlyFans was founded, it was not necessarily targeting just adult content. But what I'm trying to figure out right now is how to even navigate this website. Okay, I am screen sharing now. If I go to home, is it just my home? I don't, honestly speaking, know how to use this website.
What are you trying to find? Anyways, what are you going for?
I'm trying to demonstrate that OnlyFans is going to be fine without sexually explicit content, Luke.
Oh,
I want to try to find not sexually explicit content on OnlyFans, and I can't even. Honestly speaking, I cannot even figure out how to use.
well, do they even have discoverability? You'd have to go from a content creator that is not based on sexually explicit things and get to their page that way, right?
How would I
Like,
find one
you'd
of
have to
those?
I mean, you'd have to, I think, find their Twitter or their YouTube video or whatever it is that leads
Okay,
you there. Like, I don't
so
think there's discoverability on the platform.
forget it then. Forget it. Starting in October, then, OnlyFans will not allow creators to post material with sexually explicit content. Nude photos and videos that comply with OnlyFans policies are still allowed, and OnlyFans will provide more guidance on those new policies at a later date. The company made a statement explaining the decision that basically said, this is a quote, effective 1st of October 2021. So there's not even a ton of notice on this. That's less than 2 months. OnlyFans will prohibit the posting of any content containing sexually explicit conduct. In order to ensure the long-term sustainability of the platform and to continue to host an inclusive community of creators and fans, we must evolve our content guidelines. Creators will continue to be allowed to post content containing nudity as long as it is consistent with our acceptable use policy. These changes are to comply with the requests of our banking partners and payout providers. We will be sharing more details in the coming days, and we will actively support and guide our creators through this change in content guidelines. Now, here's something that I am kind of wondering about. I don't see anything about this in our notes here. Oh, no, I do. So, creators on OnlyFans have earned more than $4.5 billion over the past 5 years. Billion! They had $2 billion in sales last year, and they're on pace to generate more than double that this year. They keep 20% of that sales figure. That is $400 million in revenue. Have you ever used OnlyFans service? They could not possibly have more than a couple dozen developers. No offense, OnlyFans. Now,
a lot of that money is going to go towards, well, yeah, not as much as you think based on a few things, but we can get into that in a moment. But a lot of it's going to go towards payment processors, infrastructure, stuff like that. But sorry, keep going.
Sure, but in order to ensure the long-term sustainability of the platform, if I had
you kick off all your people.
If I had $400 million a year in net revenue, I think I'd probably figure out how to be sustainable without turning off the thing that makes my entire website tick. Now, there have been plenty of ads recently for non-adult content on OnlyFans. OFTV is an app that is a safe-for-work alternative to the main site, free of sexually explicit content, and launched last week. Now, back talking about their revenue. They have more than 130 million users paying monthly fees. That is an utterly mind-blowing number. And many sex workers are claiming that this is their primary source of income and that they will be temporarily out of work while searching for a new platform. Anthony left a note in here. A sex worker that I've been in contact with since the April Fool's video says they're moving to Just for Fans, which is specifically run as an adult site. It's significantly smaller, so it'll be a major loss in income while the platform comes up to speed. But it's pretty obvious that this is not going to be a unique story, and there's going to be a huge amount of momentum shifting away from OnlyFans and towards alternatives like Just for Fans. Now, with that said, can we think of any examples of sites or services that have managed to pivot from being predominantly sexually explicit content to something else? Let's say Tumblr, for example. How'd that go, Luke? Did you use Tumblr? Do you use Tumblr these days?
I have never used either of these platforms, which doesn't help, but we have quite a bit of numbers on the Tumblr change, and we know that not only was Tumblr already going down, which is quite different in this case, because OnlyFans was rocketing, going hockey stick, as Linus likes to say, but Tumblr was consistently dying when they made their change, and then just incredibly accelerated that decline. So pretty rough. A year after the ban in 2018, site visits had dropped. Site visits had dropped by nearly a minute. What? Average monthly login page traffic by US visitors dropped by 49%. Average daily users dropped by 35%. That's all for Tumblr. That's really rough. Honestly, not as much as I had expected based on how people talked about what Tumblr was, but still pretty rough. And you do have to consider that they were already on a decline. So some of that drop was like to be expected, but that was quite a bit sharper than you would have expected from Tumblr. There's some interesting stuff here. OnlyFans specifically said these changes are to comply with the requests of our banking partners and payout providers. That's a little bit wider than my understanding, but there's a post. I'm going to put it in the doc. I was grabbing this right as we were getting ready, and I didn't have time to get it in there. I will put it at the bottom of this so you can see it. There was a post back in April 15th of this year that Mastercard was making pretty big changes that will impact the entire adult entertainment industry. And I think this is it. So the changes that were going to impact tube sites that included Pornhub, Xvideos, and fan sites including OnlyFans, Just for Fans, FanCentro, etc. Are this list. These are all requirements. You need to enter into a written agreement with any individual that is contributing content to the website. This includes the individual's consent, their identity, and age. Seems like a good idea. Does seem like a decent amount of paperwork, but that's probably already in place for OnlyFans. All persons depicted in content must give consent for the content to be distributed and downloaded. That I doubt was already a thing. Not impossible, but a decent amount of extra paperwork. Age and identity of all persons depicted is required. Again, I doubt that was already a thing, but probably not impossible. A lot of paperwork again. Only verified users can be permitted to upload content. I believe that is a thing.
That's already a thing on OnlyFans. It's actually a very onerous process to get verified.
Yeah, so I believe that is a thing. This is the big one, and I think this was the big problem one. A lot of these policies seem good, and honestly, in a lot of ways, so does this one. It just seems very difficult and extremely expensive. All content must be reviewed prior to publication or real time if it's live streamed. So you'd have to have someone sitting there watching the live stream. And no content can violate the card brand BRAM business risk assessment and mitigation policies. I'm not 100% sure what those are. Other things include, that one's the big one. Other things include website must have a compliant process for reporting, review, and removal of violating content. Must have policies in place to make sure that the website cannot be used for human trafficking. Seems like a good idea. Provide monthly reports to the acquirer of flagged content and what was taken down. And no search terms or marketing partners can give the illusion that the content they are marketing will contain child exploitation materials or depictions of non-consensual activity. A lot of those seem good, just like things that maybe not all of them does OnlyFans do. And the all content reviewed prior to publication or real time if it's live streamed thing sounds very expensive to do. And especially when your take is 20% and you have payment processor fees on top of that and infrastructure fees and on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, it doesn't sound impossible,
But
It's not like Mastercard said you can't do this anymore. They just put a really big wall in the way.
And what's problematic is BRAM or BRAM. I'm not sure how they pronounce that. Here's Mastercard's own. This is an unlisted video, I think, or maybe it's not unlisted. I don't know. Whatever. It's here. So here's the video that Mastercard put up, and what it is business risk assessment and mitigation. So this is about preserving the strength and value of the Mastercard brand. Basically, what they're saying is that you are now liable for making sure that any payment that you process using Mastercard, and you can't control what credit card your user is going to use to an extent, any payment is going to be for something that it will not damage the strength and value of the Mastercard brand. And so they've got all these guidelines for what that means. Now, I think it's very telling that the obvious solution to this isn't crypto. And that really, it kind of shows how far, even though crypto has gone kind of mainstream to the point where my not super techie family is talking about it over Thanksgiving dinner, the fact that no one seems to actually see it as a viable solution to this is kind of mind-blowing to me. So is this the end for OnlyFans?
I mean, Tumblr didn't die, right?
I guess that's fair enough, but is there a reason for me to use OnlyFans instead of something else at this point? Because I thought that was the whole idea, is that Patreon narrowed the scope of what they allowed in terms of sexually explicit content, and then OnlyFans took off, and then maybe there was a platform in between them that I'm missing, but now OnlyFans is doing the same thing.
And it's a consistent story, and I haven't looked into all these different platforms. That Balesa one, I checked out theirs, and they do accept Mastercard. I'm not sure what payment platform they're using, but I do know that they accept Mastercard. So like, that's interesting. That being said, they're taking, like, one of their leading steps with this whole platform launch is that it's supposed to be ethical. So maybe they are just matching all of the guidelines. But like Linus said, there is still concerns there, so I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I think to get away from the governance of these credit cards and these payment processors, you'd have to go crypto. Like we were doing some like theory crafting on like, okay, if we did this, how do we have to do it? And ultimately, we'd like want to meet the guidelines that Mastercard laid out because they seemed actually like just a good idea. But also, we probably wouldn't want to use them because they've consistently shifted goalposts and like changed things. And yes, this time those were pretty reasonable ethical changes, but you don't know what it's going to be in the future. And that like brand alignment thing is way too vague and just sounds like a gigantic trap. So you don't want to have to deal with those types of things. And the only way to get away from that stuff right now, ultimately, is to go to crypto. Because if it was the payment processors, you could use a different payment processor. But when it's the cards as well, it's from the user side and the platform side, and that's crazy. And you don't know which brand is going to jump on next. Like maybe Amex decides to do all the same rules. So okay, if you find a way to not take Mastercard, well, who knows how that's going to work long term. We've seen this happen to a lot of different platforms. So you'd have to decentralize. You'd have to go with something like crypto.
Right.
So I mean, if none of these other platforms go to crypto, maybe there is space for us to jump in, but as of right now, we have a lot of other things we're working on. So, yeah.
I had someone in the chat that's like upset we're talking about this, exposing people who look up to us to this kind of website. I mean,
welcome to the internet.
Yeah, welcome to the internet. I mean, Luke and I we're not endorsing or not endorsing any of these platforms. We are just, this is technology. This is a huge moment for online technology, whether you like it or not. The adult entertainment industry has been a driver for technology over the decades. Massively. Actually, not the years. So that's what makes this newsworthy from our point of view. And the other side of that is that, you know, you can have your moral outrage over OnlyFans, and the answer is okay, then don't use it. You know, we got a super chat from someone named August. Says, I rely on my OnlyFans income to pay for cancer treatments. Can't work because of COVID/cancer. Feel like my life is literally over and I'm terrified. You got to understand that for a lot of people, sex work is not sex work. It's just work.
It's work.
And you know, you can have a moral sort of standpoint where you go, oh, but it's like worse, or it's this, or it's that, or I don't know. You can draw your line wherever you personally want to draw it, but that's the thing. That's you. That's your personal line. I mean, a sex worker might say, you know, I'm sorry, you lift heavy things all day for money. You are literally going to destroy your back for money. To them, the idea of taking off their clothes and snapping a picture, obviously it's not that simple. Cultivating a fan base is as difficult on OnlyFans as anywhere else. In fact, maybe even more so because it's paid. I'm just saying, you know, if you want to oversimplify these arguments, they could easily flip the script on you and say, you would legitimately destroy your body for money? I mean, I'm only taking pictures of it. So, you know, whatever, guys, just remember that whatever your personal sort of comfort level is with these kinds of services, that's personal. Like, that's you. We're just talking about it from a technology standpoint.